If you own a home in Washington, something just happened that has not happened in years. Your home is worth less than it was 12 months ago. Not everywhere, not by the same amount, but statewide, the median price of a Washington home fell $640,000, down from $650,000 a year ago. That is the average. In some parts of this state, prices are down 4%, 6%, 11%, and in one county, nearly 20%. 10 places in Washington where home prices are falling fastest, counted down to the steepest decline in the state. Number 1 is not a city most people could find on a map. Let's get into it. Starting at number 10, Skagit County, Mount Vernon, Burlington, Sedro-Woolley, Anacortes. Skagit spent the last decade as the Overflow Valley. Priced out of Snohomish, buyers pushed north into farmland and river towns, and the Tulipfield County quietly became a commuter market. The July numbers ended that quietly too. Skagit's median came in at $600,000, down 4.69% from a year earlier, and the supply side moved harder in the other direction. 562 active listings, up 23.5% year over year. That combination is the one to watch throughout this entire countdown, so it is worth naming now. When inventory rises by more than 20%, and the median falls at the same time, those two numbers are not independent. Rising inventory is the cause. Falling price is the effect, arriving a few months later. Every place on this list is somewhere along that same sequence. Skagit is simply early in it. What makes Skagit different from a distressed market is that nothing here is distressed. Employment is stable. The farms are still farming. Anacortes still has the refineries and the ferry terminal. Nobody is being forced to sell. They are choosing to. And that is the quiet mechanic underneath this whole story. Sellers who waited out 2025, hoping for a better spring, then listed anyway when spring did not arrive. Skagit sits at 3.8 months of inventory. Under 3 months is traditionally a seller's market. 4 to 6 is balanced. Skagit has crossed out of the first category and is walking into the second, and the price is already reflecting it. That is number 10. Number 9, Lewis County, Centralia, Chehalis, Napavine, Winlock. Lewis County is the halfway point of Washington, the stretch of Interstate 5 that is neither Seattle nor Portland, where the outlet mall sits and everybody stops for gas. For 3 years, that geography was an asset. Remote workers who never needed to be in either city bought here, because a house in Centralia cost less than half of a house in Tacoma. The July median was $409,299, down 2.5% year over year. Active listings, 502, up 10.5%. The number that says the most about Lewis County is not the price, it is the inventory clock, 5.4 months of supply. That is deep into balanced territory, and it is nearly double what Pierce County is carrying at 3.04. A house listed in Lewis County today is entering a market with more than 5 months of competition already standing in front of it. In Puyallup, that same house would face 3. The remote work premium is what is unwinding here. When the discount for living an hour and a half from anywhere was 50%, the drive made sense. As Thurston and Pierce flattened, that discount narrowed, and the further out you are, the faster the math stops working. That is number 9. Number 8, the San Juan Islands. Friday Harbor, East Sound, Lopez. This is the most expensive county in Washington state. The July median was $880,000, higher than King County's $879,500. The islands outrank Seattle, and they are down 2.9% year over year. 2.9% does not sound like much until you apply it to the number. On an $880,000 median, a 2.9% decline is roughly $26,000 of value, gone in 12 months, on the typical island property. Percentages compress how large these movements actually are at the top of the market. But the price is not the real story in the San Juans. The real story is the clock. 227 active listings and 7.32 months of inventory, the second highest supply ratio in the entire state. Above 6 months of inventory is textbook buyer's market territory. The San Juans are well past it, and there is a structural reason islands behave this way. Every buyer here is discretionary. Nobody is relocating to Orcas Island for a job. There is no commute to shorten, no school district to chase, no employer anchoring demand. When a market runs entirely on want rather than need, and borrowing costs rise, the want is the first thing to go, which is why island and resort markets consistently turn earlier and sit longer than the cities they serve. The most expensive county in Washington, sitting at 7 months of supply. That is number 8. Number 7. Clallam County and the Pacific Coast, Port Angeles, Sequim, and down the coast into Pacific County, Long Beach, Raymond, South Bend. 2 different retirement markets, same result. Clallam's July median was $487,500, down 2.5%. Pacific County came in at $355,000, down 3.4%. Sequim in particular has spent 30 years selling one specific promise, the rain shadow, half the rainfall of Seattle, in the same state. That promise built an entire retirement economy. The vulnerability in a retirement market is that it runs on other housing markets. A buyer moving to Sequim is almost always selling somewhere else first, and that somewhere else is usually King, Snohomish, or Pierce County. When the market they are selling into slows down, their move stalls before it starts. Retirement destinations do not soften because retirees stopped wanting to retire. They soften because the house that funds the retirement will not sell. Clallam is holding at 3.23 months of inventory, which is genuinely tight. But the median is still down. That is the signature of a market where sellers have already adjusted price to keep things moving. The adjustment is showing up in the price column instead of the inventory column. That is number 7. Quick note before number 6. Every figure here comes from the Northwest MLS July report released last week, and I break down each new release the same way. Subscribe if you want the next one. Number 6. Sammamish and the Eastside Plateau. Sammamish is one of the wealthiest cities in Washington state. Top-rated schools, Microsoft and Amazon salaries, a median well above $1.5 million. Redfin's 3-month window ending May 2026 puts the Sammamish median at $1.6 million, down 4.9% year over year. Percentage declines behave very differently at this end of the market. 4.9% of $1.6 million is roughly $82,000. That is more absolute value than the entire 19.6% decline in the cheapest county on this list removes from a typical home there. The same percentage means wildly different things depending on where you start, and at the top of the market a modest-sounding percentage is a very large number of dollars. What is pressuring the plateau is not the housing market, it is the payroll behind it. Amazon cut roughly 2,300 Washington workers in its October 2025 round, and about 2,200 more in the round, announced in late January, part of a 30,000-position corporate reduction the company described as the largest in its history. Microsoft's most recent round cut 4,800 employees, including about 600 in Washington, with a state filing listing 605 Redmond positions effective in early September. Zoom out, and the state picture is starker. Challenger Gray and Christmas counted more than 19,500 announced Washington layoffs in early 2026, against fewer than 2,700 in the same stretch a year earlier. That is the highest level the state has recorded since 2009. The plateau was built on the assumption that those salaries were permanent. That assumption is being revised. That is number 6. Number 5. Everett. Everett was the affordability answer inside Snohomish County, the working city with the Boeing plant, the naval station, and a waterfront that never quite got developed. Redfin's data through May puts the Everett median at $580,000, down 6.1% year over year. Zillow's home value index reads the level differently, at roughly $620,000, but lands on nearly the same direction, down about 5.9%. 2 different methodologies, same answer. When independent measures agree on direction, the direction is real. It is worth explaining why they disagree on level, because you will see this gap in every market report. Redfin publishes median sale prices, the middle of what actually closed. Zillow publishes an estimated value index across all homes, sold or not. In a slowing market, the homes that close skew toward whatever is moving, so the 2 figures separate. Neither is wrong. They measure different things, and the honest way to read them is to trust the direction where they agree and treat the level as approximate. And Everett's homes are still moving fast, 7 days on market. That is the part people misread. Speed is not strength here. Everett is selling quickly because Everett has already repriced. That is number 5. Number 4, Snohomish County. Linwood, Marysville, Mill Creek, Monroe, Arlington. This is the largest market on this list, and its numbers are the most dramatic of any major county in the state. July median, $719,000, down 6.01% year over year. Active listings, 2,878, up 34.74%. That is the second largest inventory increase of any county in the Northwest MLS system, and the steepest median decline of any major population center in Washington. One brokerage analysis of Northwest MLS data, published at the end of July, put Snohomish resale inventory up more than 45% year over year and at its highest level since 2015. That figure comes from a private brokerage rather than the MLS press release, so treat it as directional rather than official. But it points the same way as the county numbers the MLS did publish. Snohomish is the clearest example on this list of the whole sequence completing. Supply surged, then price fell. Not in different quarters, in the same reporting period. And Snohomish is where the layoffs land hardest, because it is the one county carrying both employers at once. It has the Boeing production footprint in Everett, and it has the residential overflow from every Amazon and Microsoft worker who could not afford King County. When aerospace is flat and tech is cutting, Snohomish absorbs both. Yet the county is still at just 3.01 months of inventory. Genuinely tight, rising supply, tight ratio, falling price, all at once. That is a market with strong underlying demand being outrun by the pace of new listings. That is number 4. Number 3, Seattle. The citywide median through May was $879,000, down 2.3% year over year. That sounds mild. The context is not. In March, the S&P Cotality Case-Shiller index recorded Seattle single-family prices down 2.5% year over year, the weakest performance of all 20 major metropolitan markets tracked. Not among the weakest. The weakest. Nicholas Godek of S&P Dow Jones Indices, commenting on that release, noted that more than half of the 20 major U.S. housing markets recorded year-over-year price declines in March, describing a housing slowdown that was both broadening and deepening. Seattle led that list. Then look inside the city, where the averages break apart. Downtown Seattle's median came in at $590,000, down 7.1%. West Seattle, $800,000, down 2.2%. The condo market is where this is concentrated. King County condo inventory reached 2,494 active listings in July, up nearly 21% year over year, at a median of $519,975, down 1.9%. King County condos are carrying 5.91 months of inventory. Compare that to 3.88 months for the county overall. The condo segment is running a full 2 months slower than the houses around it, and downtown, where the condo towers are, is falling fastest. There is one more number worth knowing if you are selling in Seattle. Redfin data covering the 3 months ending in May found 48.8% of Seattle sellers gave buyers a concession, money toward closing costs, repairs, or a rate buydown. A year earlier, that figure was around 66%. That decline is not sellers getting stronger. It is sellers who have already cut the asking price instead, moving the discount out of the negotiation and into the listing. The largest city in the state, leading 20 national metros downward. That is number 3. Number 2, Bellevue. Redfin's 3-month window ending May 2026 puts the Bellevue median at $1.5 million, down 11.3% year over year. 11.3% on a $1.5 million median is roughly $190,000. I want to be careful with this one, because the sources do not fully agree. Redfin's rolling 3-month window shows the 11.3% decline. A local brokerage analysis of February data reported Bellevue up nearly 8% year over year. Full year 2025 Redfin data showed the city down 7.4% against 2024. Different windows, different methods, Genuinely different answers. What I can tell you is what the most recent broad market data shows, and that the annual figures also point down. Anyone quoting you a single confident number for Bellevue right now is overselling their certainty. Bellevue is the purest expression of the tech payroll question. This is the city Amazon expanded into. The January layoff round alone included more than 600 Bellevue positions. And there is a policy variable arriving underneath all of it. In March, Governor Ferguson signed Senate Bill 6346, a 9.9% tax on household income above $1 million. It does not take effect until January 2028, and it faces a constitutional challenge filed almost immediately. Some outlets reported a jump in luxury listings in the days after passage, figures ranging from 45 to 65% depending on who counted. Those are single-day snapshots from partisan sources, and I would not build a conclusion on them. The verifiable part is simply this: the tax is real, it is not yet in effect, it is being litigated, and the most expensive housing market in the state is the one most exposed to it. Washington's wealthiest city, posting its steepest decline in years. That is number 2. Number 1, Okanogan County, Omak, Okanogan, Tonasket, Oroville, Twisp and Winthrop up the Methow Valley. The July median in Okanogan County was $321,500. A year earlier, it was closer to $400,000. That is a decline of 19.63%, nearly 1/5 of the county's median value in 12 months. It is, by a wide margin, the steepest county-level price decline in Washington state. And the supply side is worse. 370 active listings, up 48% year over year, the largest inventory increase of any county in the entire Northwest MLS system. 7.87 months of inventory, the deepest supply ratio in the state. Okanogan is what happens when a pandemic destination market fully unwinds. Between 2020 and 2022, the Methow Valley was one of the most sought-after rural markets in the Pacific Northwest. Remote work, wildfire-scarred but spectacular country, and a 200-mile buffer from Seattle. Buyers paid Seattle-adjusted prices for Okanogan County real estate. Then the return-to-office mandates arrived, mortgage rates doubled, and the buyer who could pay $400,000 for a house in Twisp stopped existing. What remains is local demand, in a county whose actual local economy is orchards, ranching, and tourism. The price is returning to what the local economy can support. One honest note, because the data deserves it. Okanogan is a small market. 370 listings is a fraction of King County's 7,836, and in small markets, a handful of transactions can swing a median. Ferry County, further east, posted an even steeper decline, down 27.3%, but on just 48 active listings, which is genuinely too thin to draw conclusions from. Okanogan sits at the boundary of statistical meaningfulness. I am putting it at number 1 because 48% inventory growth and a 19.6% price decline point the same direction, and 2 independent signals agreeing is harder to dismiss than either one alone. The steepest price decline in Washington state is not in Seattle, or Bellevue, or anywhere on the west side. It is 3 hours over the mountains, in a county most of the state has never driven through. Here is the honest frame, because the data deserves it. Washington is not crashing. The statewide median is down 1.5%. That is a market cooling, not collapsing. Homes are still selling. 26,826 listings received at least one showing in July, up almost 11% from last year. Buyers are out there. What has changed is who has the leverage. And the pressure is coming from outside the state entirely. Freddie Mac put the 30-year fixed mortgage rate at 6.69% for the week ending August 6th, the highest level in over a year, and up from around 6.1% earlier in 2026. Stephen Barassa, who directs the Washington Center for Real Estate Research, noted alongside the July figures that seller interest rose sharply while transactions did not follow, with rates above 6.5% through the month. Every price on this list is a function of that number. Notice what almost every place on this list has in common. Skagit, Lewis, the San Juans, Sequim, Okanogan. These are not job markets. They are choice markets, places people move to because they want to, not because they have to. And choice is the first thing that disappears when borrowing gets expensive. The exceptions are Seattle, Bellevue, Snohomish, and Everett. Those are job markets. And they are on this list for a completely different reason. Because the jobs themselves are being cut. Two different mechanisms, one direction. The next Northwest MLS release covering August data is due in early September, and the number I will be watching is whether the statewide median holds above 630,000. If it does, this is a plateau. If it does not, this is a trend. Subscribe, because that breakdown is already scheduled. And tell me in the comments what you are seeing where you live. Asking prices, days on market, whether the sign came down or the price did. This channel runs on what you send me. The data always tells the real story.